Eminem. It seems like people either love the guy or hate him. And this polarizing reputation has preceded Slim Shady ever since he hit mainstream popularity in the late 90s. For all the adoring fans for who Eminem became a role model, there was an equally large number of opposing groups who viewed him as the scapegoat for the corruption of the youth in the late 90s and early 2000s. Even today, although you could say that he has calmed down significantly over the years, Shady still continues to polarize. Voices saying that Eminem has run out of stuff to rap about, that he has lost his edge and become kind of cringe have been getting louder and louder after every newer release.
Wait, Eminem is dead?
Oh! I mean, I was never really that into him because he was like super old and kind of mean to women.
And even some fans feel like his lyrics have become boring and outdated in the last decade or so. At this point, I feel like I have to add that I am a stan. Now, for those who don't know, the term stan being used to describe someone being a massive fan of something actually originates from no one else than Eminem himself. In 2000, he released a song of the same name, which was about a fanatic Slim Shady fan writing letters to his idol in order to get Senpai to notice him. But due to different circumstances, Eminem never replies to Stan's letters. And so the man becomes more erratic with every new desperate attempt to contact his idol. The song ending with 3 people dead and Eminem finally replying to Stan, only to realize at the end that the person he has been hearing on the news about was this same guy who wrote all those letters.
It was you. Damn.
And before people were using Stan for describing someone loving a certain movie, person, or TV show, for example, the term was used to describe people who were fans of Eminem. The Slim Shady fandom, if you will. Yes, I am aware that being a fan of Eminem unironically has become kind of cringe and controversial in the last couple of years. But just like many others, the guy's music has always been a huge part of my life growing up and has helped people, including myself, through some really tough times. Hell, I even enjoy some of his newer stuff. It's weird to explain, but there's just something about the way Eminem rhymes that makes my brain tingle. Here, let me give you an example. Notice how the lines are made up of mostly this E sound? And in addition to that, the last words in every line also rhyme. So there's just so much stuff going on in just this small snippet. And this is only a tiny example of Eminem's rhyming skills. He is rightfully considered to be one of the best rappers in the world. Okay, this intro segment has been going on for way too long. Let's finally get into the actual topic I wanted to talk about. Now, even if one day Eminem decides that he has had enough of rapping, or hell, if he never picked up music in the first place, Shady would have still had another talent to fall back on in that case. Now, as many of you know, Eminem, or Marshall Mathers, has had a really tough childhood. With that being said, Marshall actually is a huge Marvel fan and wanted to become a comic book artist growing up. A few years ago, some sketches made by a young Eminem surfaced on the internet. Now these are actually from a documentary called The Way I Am, after one of Shady's most well-known songs. They show drawings of famous Marvel characters such as Wolverine and the Hulk. Now these are actually quite good, and definitely show that he has some knowledge of anatomy as well as shading. Eminem is a huge comic book fan. Evidence of that can be found in many of his songs, and even in some of his music videos, such as the 2002 release Without Me, for example, where M and Dr. Dre can be seen playing the part of Robin and Batman respectively, or him being on the soundtrack for both Venom movies with the songs Last One Standing featuring Polo G and Mozzie, as well as Venom. Now in an LA Times interview from 2012, Eminem reportedly mentioned that, quote, he had a love for storytelling and dreamed of being a comic book artist until he got absorbed with rap. Unfortunately, very little of this artwork has ever been shown publicly, but one of the few pieces we actually do have come from a 2009 released autobiography on Eminem's life, called The Way I Am. Another Marvel sketch drawn by Marshall can be seen in yet another documentary about his life called The Story of Eminem, where people that knew him growing up recount his love for comic books and creating his own worlds. Now correct me if I'm wrong, but I think this is supposed to be Spider-Man hitting some dude with what looks like a plank of wood or something. I'm not sure. But yet, another glimpse into Eminem's skill as a visual artist. Even today, Eminem's love for comic books is as strong as ever. According to a 2009 article from MTV.com, Shady has been an avid collector of comic books for some time now. To quote Riggs Morales, "I've gotten a small glimpse of Eminem's collection, and Eminem's collection is otherworldly. He has items that aren't even on display at the stores." Now Shady has some real gems among his collection, including but not limited to a copy of Amazing Fantasy number 15. If that title doesn't ring any bells, let me tell you that this comic marked the first appearance of none other than Spider-Man himself. This 1962 released comic alone is worth millions of dollars. Just being able to have those pieces of history is crazy. I would not want to face off with somebody comparing comic book knowledge, but I know a pretty good amount. Eminem told Genius. Not only does Marshall collect comics, he has also been featured in a number of them. On November 22nd, 2022, a new variant cover to Amazing Spider-Man number 1 was published, featuring none other than the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man rap-battling Eminem. It was illustrated by Salvador LaRocca. This cover came to be to celebrate the 20-year anniversary of Eminem's movie 8 Mile. The variant was sold through Eminem.com and goes for quite high prices on sites like eBay nowadays. An even rarer variant of the comic book cover was released sometime later, called the Spotlight variant. This edition will set you back even more if you decide to add it to your collection. Now, Salvador LaRocca isn't just responsible for drawing this variant cover. In fact, he has illustrated Eminem many times throughout the years, such as when Eminem teamed up with the Punisher in a 2009 released issue, as well as in 2013, when LaRocca drew yet another variant cover featuring the rap god himself. This time he was featured sitting in front of his childhood home, which should be very familiar if you know anything about Eminem at all, together with Iron Man for Mighty Avengers number 3. Eminem also makes a cameo in one of the X-Men books, Excalibur number 21, among many other real-life celebrities. However, this seems to be nothing more than an Easter egg this time, and not a full-out collab such as the previous examples. Unfortunately, there are only a handful of drawings made by Eminem that surfaced over the years, but given the few sketches the world has access to, it is safe to say that the rapper's artistic skills are pretty impressive, including the following one. The Re-Up is an album that came out in 2006. It is a compilation album featuring several artists, such as D12, Obi Trice, and 50 Cent to name a few. Now, the rappers featured on the album, except Akon and Nate Dogg, had all been signed to Shady Records at that time. The album received mixed reviews when it was released, but the thing that arguably sets it apart is that none other than Eminem himself is responsible for the cover art. He drew all the artists featured on the compilation album. And now deleted Twitter post by user mainly Eminem even shows some of the sketches that would later become part of the art featured on the Re-Up. And while researching the history behind this cover even more, I actually found this Reddit post that pretty much tracked down most of the reference photos that Shady used while he was drawing the album cover. Now, I think he managed to capture the likenesses of the artists featured on the Re-Up quite well. Pretty cool that he did that. Now, I know people have mixed feelings towards this Shady record release, critics citing that it is average at best, while some fans think it is underrated. If you ask me, I enjoy some of the songs on this album, my favorite ones being We're Back and No Apologies. I think you should definitely give the album a listen to form your own opinion. For me, it was quite the trip down memory lane back to the mid-2000s. Lastly, I would like to talk about what probably is the best known artwork ever released by Slim Shady. Now, this piece was first shown in a book chronicling the life of late rap legend Tupac called Tupac Remembered, which was released in 2008. This very special drawing is accompanied by a letter addressed to Tupac's mother. It seems that Eminem sent it sometime after the rapper's death in 1996. The letter was made up of condolences for Afeni Shakur's loss, and how much Tupac's music influenced Marshall Mathers. After the letter and drawing found their way online, interest reignited, and many people couldn't help but be extremely moved by M's words. Quote, "You will always be in my heart, my thought, and my prayers. As I have said before, you have no idea how much your son and his music inspired not only the hip-hop world, but speaking for myself, has inspired my whole career. He was, and still is, the true definition of a soldier. When I was feeling at my worst, before fame, before Dre, I knew I could put that Tupac tape in and suddenly things weren't so bad. He gave me the courage to stand up and say, F the world, this is who I am. And if you don't like it, go F yourself." You can clearly see the huge impact Tupac had on a young Marshall Mathers. He has been referenced many times by Eminem in his songs throughout the years. Like I said, the letter wasn't the only thing he sent Tupac's mother. Eminem also included a drawing of a rapper. Now he even apologizes if a drawing looks a little sloppy, as he didn't have proper pencils while sketching, and thus completed the entire thing in pen instead. Eminem also gives us a little insight into his artistic career, by mentioning that he has been drawing since he was 10 years old. Now Afeni Shakur actually did respond to this letter, writing, quote, "I must personally thank Marshall Mathers for stepping up to the plate, and in Tupac's words, I thank him for staying loyal to the game." Many people thought Eminem's portrait looked really good. You can clearly see that this is supposed to be Tupac. The shading and proportions are once again pretty solid. According to the book, the letter and sketch were both on display at the Tupac Amaru Shakur Center for the Arts in Stone Mountain, Georgia. Sadly, the place has been closed down since 2015, and all the memorabilia was removed by the Shakur family. So I am not sure where the Eminem drawing is nowadays, or if it will ever be on display again. Over the years, some items from Tupac's collection have been auctioned off. However, there is no evidence to support that the letter and drawing were among this stuff. And that's it for this video. If I had to add anything, it would be that I would love to see more drawings from Eminem, since we really haven't gotten much over the years. The few sketches which made their way into the public eye sure look pretty good, so it would be really cool to see more from where that came from. Until next time, bye bye!
You'll be looking small when you're standing right next to me. I'm 5'10", bitch, but I'm 10 feet. 'Cause I don't give a fuck what you say. Yeah, I'ma do shit my way. So you can go kick rocks, I'ma stack bricks up, build what I want to make. 'Cause I don't give a fuck what you say. Yeah, I'ma do shit my way. So you can go kick rocks, I'ma stack bricks up, build what I want.